Welcome to the Investors Playbook Show, where our mission is clear: empowerment through financial education. We firmly believe that financial freedom isn't a privilege. It's a right that's available to everybody. Each week, we dive deep into the world of finances, breaking down complex topics and making them accessible and actionable for everyone. As we grow this community, we invite you to join us on this journey. Why tune in? Because together, we're not just learning about wealth, we're building a movement, reshaping futures, and proving that with the right knowledge, financial success is within everyone's reach. It's time to get off the sidelines. Let's go.
All right, welcome to Investors Playbook, episode 13. I'm Cornell Rowan.
And I'm Deshaun Edwards. And today we have a special guest with us, our first guest on the show. We have Ashlee, co-founder of Moguls in the Making. She is a real estate investor. She's been doing real estate for a number of years now. And we are looking forward definitely to this conversation. Going to get some gems for you all. So let's get started. Let's jump right in to the conversation. So before we do that, though, before we jump right in, we are coming off the Thanksgiving break. And I just kind of want to ask, Ashlee, how was your Thanksgiving?
My Thanksgiving was really great. It was a nice break from, the hustle and bustle, time to just relax, see some people I haven't seen, eat some really greasy, delicious food. Just good times.
Nice. Cornell, what about you?
Man, Thanksgiving was amazing, man. Just being around family, enjoying everybody, and just vibing, not having any stressors, just being in the moment. So that was really cool. A really cool experience. What about you, bro?
Yeah, same. A nice breakaway from work. Yeah, hustle and bustle. I think one of y'all mentioned it. That's exactly what it feels like all the time. So getting just that long weekend to relax, be around people that you care about, eat some good food, watch some good movies. It was definitely a well-needed and well-deserved break. So we really appreciate that break for sure.
For sure.
Mm.
And I actually wanted to ask, and I guess we'll start with you, Ashley. What's something that you're thankful for?
Yeah, I'm thankful for a lot of things, but I'll say that I'm really grateful for my parents and the sacrifices they made to ensure that I would have opportunities and access that they didn't, even if they had to do some things that were questionably ethical. I think I appreciate just their drive to give us more than what they had. Even though they don't always have all the information, they're not college educated, so they don't always have all the resources, but they did their best to put us in the best possible position. And I appreciate that because they didn't have to. So,
For sure. And really, I appreciate your transparency with that, Ashley, because you're sharing things that you don't really have to share with us. So thank you for that. So what about you, Deshaun? What's something that you're thankful for?
I mean, mine is along the same lines, man. My mom, my grandma, my aunt Tracy, like my support system is what I'm thankful for. Even me being out here in Los Angeles and not being right next to my family, I still feel that love. I still feel that support. And especially like more recently, we just dropped a book. Immediately, multiple members of my family all purchased it. One person could have purchased it and shared it, but they each individually bought the book in support of what we're doing. So I'm definitely thankful for the family that I have. It's not a lot of people that can, just say that they got people that have their back like that. So really appreciate it for that support system. Um, yeah. What about you, Cornell?
So mine is actually similar to yours, man. Just having people around me that support me, just family that I can talk to, just things like that. Like you said, some people would kill to have that. There are a lot of people that don't have that. So it's important that we remain grateful in these types of when this happens. Because like as you know, like with our YouTube, like right when we started it, we needed 50 subscribers in order to go live so that we could start our podcast. So it was kind of in everybody else's hands. But that very next day, we had enough subscribers thanks to all the support that we were blessed with. You see what I'm saying? So yeah, I just don't take things like that for granted, and I'm happy about it. So yes, I'm thankful for the support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Nah, man, that's good. And everyone who did support us by following us on YouTube, by purchasing our book, like we truly thank you, right? It means a lot for sure. All right, look, we're going to dive deep into the conversation about real estate. So the first question we have for you, Ashlee, is kind of just give us your background into real estate. How did you get started? What was your inspiration? What was like your first experience with real estate? Yeah, how did it all kind of start?
Yeah, so I would say subconsciously, my real estate journey started when I was 5.
Hmm.
I was living with my mom in my grandma's house across the street from an empty lot in South Central LA. And my dad purchased the lot and built a house for us on the lot. And that was the very first home that I grew up in that I could call my own. And it was meaningful to see the house being built from the ground and see my dad like putting our mark on it, carving our names and the year and the concrete. And it just felt very permanent. And so I would say like subconsciously that definitely impacted me and what ownership means to me, what real estate means to me. But consciously, I think my journey started in 2016 when I started Airbnb my apartment. Um, just not the whole apartment, but I put one of the rooms in my apartment on Airbnb because I found out the rent was going up. And that's when my dad was like, you need to buy a house because if my rent is going to be $2,600, he was like, if you can afford to pay that in rent, you can afford to buy a house. And it seemed far fetched to me, and I did have resistance, but I appreciate his persistence in being like, no, like you can own a home. I will help you. We can do this together. It doesn't make sense for you to pay this much in rent. So,
Man, so I know me and Cornell, we talk about this a lot. We talk about how you don't know what you don't know. We don't learn about things like investing from school. Sometimes we don't learn it from our parents. And a lot of times we just have to figure it out as we're going through life. So I think it's a blessing that your dad even gave you that push to get into real estate or even purchase that home. It doesn't always happen like that, right?
mhm.
So yeah, I think that that is an amazing thing that he was persistent because you said it. I don't have enough money to buy a home right now. But the reality is, when you think about how much you're paying in rent by not owning, putting that money somewhere that literally does nothing. I mean, it puts a roof over your head, but it doesn't grow, right? You're putting money into a black hole. You're paying someone else's mortgage, basically.
Yeah.
So even the idea that he was like, nah, I'm gonna stay on you. I'm gonna make sure that you understand the importance of ownership. I think that that is definitely a beautiful thing, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, and like Deshaun was saying, a lot of times parents aren't passing down those wealth building tools to their offspring. So it's just good that you had that opportunity. And that's really just him simply being on you and saying, "Hey, you need to buy." That changed the trajectory of your life probably. You see
Hmm.
what I'm saying? So yeah, that's dope. And I hope that that continues to be passed down even if not only through your own kids but also through like nephews, nieces, you see what I'm saying? Like yeah, so you can build that generational wealth. But I do have a question. I know that you're in real estate, so I just wanted to know like what types of properties, if you do you seek a certain type of property that you want to invest in? Like how do you go through that process?
So when I'm looking for an investment, I'm looking for cash flow or appreciation when it comes to investing in real estate through acquiring properties. If I'm
Real quick,
investing,
I just want to make sure people know what these vocabulary words are. When you say cash flow, what does that mean? Is that, I mean, cash flow, cash flowing, but what does that actually mean? Is that to you? Like, if you can explain it kind of in layman's terms.
yeah, I should be specific. So I'm looking for positive cash flow. So
Okay.
cash can
Okay.
flow negatively or
Right.
positively. Either
Right.
way, cash will flow. So for me, I'm looking for after all of my expenses associated with this property on a monthly basis, there's money left over. And when I say expenses, that includes reserves. So 10% I'm thinking for reserves, 10% of the revenue that's coming in, but then also my expenses. And after all that's paid, do I have excess cash from this property? So that's what I mean when I say positive cash flow. for appreciation, sometimes I buy real estate not because it's going to be a great cash cow in the short term, but because I'm seeing development in the neighborhood in the long term. And so I'm thinking, okay, by the time I close on this property, I'll already have instant equity, but also, they're developing in this neighborhood. It's up and coming. In a few years, I'll have gained much more equity through appreciation, and I can cash out if I want to, or I can refinance. I can do a cash out refi. I can sell it and just take a large chunk of money. So it just, but the best property though for me is like when it cash flows now, but then it also appreciates over time. I think that's like the best case scenario for me.
Gotcha. Okay, so cash flow is like having a renter, having someone live in the property that's going to continue to pay you or continue to pay their rent to you, right? That's cash flowing. And then appreciation is like the value of the house going up, right?
Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Cool. Okay. Understood. All right. And then when you're doing your searching for real estate, is it kind of local to where you are, or do you kind of expand? I know a lot of people do out of state investing too. Do you expand outside of California, or do you keep it local?
Yeah, so I'm not really looking in California right now because the prices are so high. It's a
Hmm.
very high entry point. So I mostly invest out of state. But in California, for the properties I do have, cash flow is important to me. I don't have to worry about appreciation in California, it's just automatic. But
Right.
I do want to reduce my expenses in California by, getting some of the money back that I'm paying. So, like in my condo, I house hack. I rent out a room, and essentially that renter pays down my mortgage for me.
Wow.
And then like another house, the house I grew up in that my mom deeded to me, I rent out each room rather than renting out the whole house because it cash flows better. But out
Wow.
of state, yeah, I definitely look out of state because the entry point is a lot lower, and
Mhm.
there's a lot of markets where you can get in for cheap, but you get really good positive cash flow, like Ohio, like Cleveland, you can buy a duplex for $50,000, yet you can still get 1,800 in rent, and that's crazy to me. So I definitely look out of state.
Wow. Okay. And that opens up a lot of opportunity for a lot of people, especially living here, because I live here in Inglewood, and right along the prices of the houses out here are crazy. You have to have a lot to start with to get into the California market, but that does not and shouldn't stop you from getting into real estate because you can always invest anywhere
Yeah.
outside of California, and I think that that's cool. Um, One thing you mentioned earlier too was house hacking, and it's interesting because when you told us about your dad, that's what you were going to do to pay your rent was house hack your apartment, but now
Hmm.
you purchase a home, house hack that, and it's still paying your mortgage. So I think that that is, again, still interesting. That that was going to be your answer to paying your rent, and it's still your answer to paying your mortgage. Same, right? But now you have that condo that's building equity that is also cash flowing, right? In a sense.
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
okay,
So it's interesting because I didn't know that term house hack at the time. So in 2016, I feel like real estate investing wasn't all over social media the way it is now.
definitely
I was in law school just trying to figure out like, look, somebody got to pay these bills. So when I heard about Airbnb, I was like, what actually is stopping me from putting a bedroom in my apartment on Airbnb? Like, I know it was a breach of my lease. I understand that. But, it depends on your risk threshold too. Like, I have a very high risk tolerance. So for me, the idea of my landlord finding out that I'm doing Airbnb like wasn't super scary to me. I was just like, if he finds out, I'll stop. Like,
right.
it's
Look,
fine.
hey,
But
scary money don't make no money. Okay,
right.
you got to take risks. You feel me?
Or I'll just be like, oh my gosh, what? I didn't know.
Right,
Sorry.
right.
Let me stop.
Be like, for real? I really can't rent out this place that I'm renting from you? Like, yeah.
Right. Exactly. It's like fake ignorance, be like, oh my gosh,
Right,
my bad. I'll stop this. But so that was house hacking, but in a short term rental sense, right? So in 2016, taking a room in my apartment, listing it on Airbnb, and just getting that type of rental income. And then I thought when I moved, I was like, it would be a lot less work and a lot more stable if I just have someone who's always there, one person, instead of
right,
having to clean, because I had to do all the cleaning of the room myself, all the laundry. It was a lot of work, and I was already in law school, and I was just like, this is a lot. And so I thought, let me try this long-term rental thing. I think it could be more stable for me. And of course, there's a lot of pushback. Even my dad was like, "You're gonna have a stranger in your house? Like, oh my God, like, don't do it. That's so dangerous." And I was just like, I don't know. This money is looking good.
That's
I'm
look.
gonna
That's
go
just the dad. That's just the dad in him. I'm sure. You don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's him as an individual also because I actually thought about doing that with my rooms, but I went against it because I was like, man, I kind of like my peace. You see what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Just be able to do whatever I want in the house, not have to worry about anybody else. Like common area is my area. You see
Yeah.
what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I don't. I think it was just like how he would prefer it, but that doesn't mean that you have to prefer it that way.
Right.
So yeah, just to add
And
my 2 cents.
it's also like just what's more important to you, right? So my dad at the time was retired, stable, chilling, like he ain't worried about money. I was
Mm.
in law school and I was part-time employed and trying to figure out bills. I was also going through a divorce at the time. So it's like my situation was different. I was willing to endure more discomfort than
Right.
he was because I was at a different place in my life. So for me, it was like, no, I need to get this rent paid, even if it means I'm a little bit uncomfortable in my own space.
Wow. Nah, that's cool. And I did want to ask too. Well, specifically, Cornell, to you, because you also are a homeowner, right? You have real estate. I want to say maybe your story might have been a little different than Ashley's as far as getting your first property, right?
Mm.
Kind of tell us about that. And I know this because I know the story, but I want you to kind of tell it to other people how your journey went when it comes to you getting into real estate, and where you think you could have handled things differently, or like talk to us about that.
So my journey is a little funny, man. And it comes from like a me being in a different mindset. So for me, coming out of school, I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was worried about my future. I had very low self-efficacy. So my idea was I need to make my expenses as low as possible because I didn't have high hopes for my income
Hmm.
at the time. I'm fresh out. I have a degree. I don't know what I'm about to do with it. So what I did is I devised a plan. I said, okay, I'm going to buy a house. I'm going to buy a car. I'm going to pay both of them off. And then I'm straight for the rest of my life. Right? So I don't have to worry about nothing. I'm not going to be a bum. I'm going to be straight. I'm going to be able to live. So then I bought my house actually with someone else. Um, we paid the house off completely. Yeah, and then later on we ended up parting ways. I paid her out of the house. I was able to get her name off of the deed and everything. So yeah, but what I would have done differently, because this was a big mistake, and somebody told me that as I was doing it, but it just didn't make sense in my head at the time. I had to learn through my experience. So I paid off the house, and man, what I realized is instead of me putting all this money into this house that's kind of just sitting there, because remember, a house is going to appreciate whether you pay it off or not.
Right.
So I have all this money stuck in the house where I could have done something, I could have invested it somewhere else. Either I could have bought another house or I could have put that money into the stock market. I could have went different ways with this
Mm.
because from when I paid my house off, I want to say I paid the house off in like 2018 maybe. If
Yeah.
I had invested into the stock market all that money into the stock market
Yeah.
for right now, from then to now, I would have been triple what I am now. You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? My net worth would have been triple what it was. But I
Yeah.
just wasn't thinking about that. I was just trying to keep my costs low. I didn't have a high risk tolerance. I was
Mm.
trying to play things the safe way. So
Right.
it wasn't bad, but I definitely didn't capitalize on what I had at the time.
For sure. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call opportunity cost. All right. You are literally removing opportunity by putting large chunks of money on low interest loans like home loans, car loans, things that can be paid over time that are not going to ding you really hard with the interest. And instead, well, we put the money there instead of putting it into investment opportunities, like you said, the stock market, and things of that nature. So, all right, cool. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure people understood. Like paying off a house sounds amazing when you do it, but if you try and rush and do it, it can cost you opportunity to invest in other ways, right? So,
Sure.
and in that same conversation, I know Ashlee, you have your out of state properties. I know that I don't know. It sounds scary, right? To invest in a place that you can't even see. Um, what were some of the like challenges that happened? Because having a home in California where you live is one thing, but getting into a place or going to a place where you've never been, or looking at real estate where you've never been, trusting people that you probably never even met, right? To watch over this house, to make sure that they tell you what's wrong with the house, have inspectors come and look at the place. What were some of the challenges that you had to kind of go through when you were starting your out of state real estate investment journey?
Yeah. It's funny you said the word trusting because that's exactly what I was gonna say. I think my first biggest challenge was just trust.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very skeptical person, so and I'm also not super social. So I had to build relationships with strangers and then essentially entrust them with my money.
Right.
And it was uncomfortable. I mean, like the whole time I definitely had intrusive thoughts like this is stupid, you're crazy. Like I found a realtor. Okay, I found a list of realtors on realtor.com and I reached out to all of them via email and basically told them what I wanted to do, what I was interested in. And then I had conversations with them and I just went off of vibes and that's why I think I had those intrusive thoughts. It was like, those movies you see like the devil on one shoulder and the angel on one shoulder. I feel like the devil was like, so you just gonna go off vibes? Like that's what you gonna choose your the angel was like, you should trust your gut. Don't listen to that. And I'm just like, oh my God.
People are
So
nice. Everyone's not bad. Like, yeah.
right. And so I was really just like, all right, I like the vibe of this lady. She gives me good feelings. I'm just gonna try to build a relationship with her, just trust a little, have a little faith, tell her what I want. And I kind of thought in my head, something I do a lot is think about what is the worst case scenario? What is the worst thing that could happen? And what I decided is the worst thing that could happen is this person screws me over and I have to fly to North Carolina and sue her personally. Like that is the worst that could happen. And I was like, is that so bad? No, I've endured worse. So I was like, I think I'm good with this risk. And the risk is low, like she's a realtor, she has to operate according to certain ethical standards. And so I was like, I think there's enough systems in place for me to jump into this. Um, so I would say trust was like my biggest first challenge. But once you do it one time, like after starting to build a relationship with a stranger once and kind of, getting comfortable with that, it's easy to replicate and you can see red flags easier. So I would say that that was my first challenge. And second, it was honestly just like noise. From
Man.
people. I mean, I had challenges with like contractors and stuff, but I think my second biggest challenge was actually just outside noise and people saying things like, "Oh, you're going to invest in our property you've never seen." And like, I mean, obviously I knew that, but just hearing it in that tone and presented to me that way just automatically raises doubt in my mind. Like it makes me wonder, like, am I doing a wrong thing? Like, am I being crazy? Am I being irrational? Like, I think just the questioning of it alone, is what was the challenge. And so I had to just block out noise,
You know
just be
what's
like,
wild?
what?
What the wild thing is, the people who talk or are the loudest are the ones who've never done it before. The ones who haven't even tried to do what you're doing. They're just saying it's a bad idea because they're afraid that if they did it, they might fail. It's always wild to me when people who are spewing doubt or trying to convince you to do something that you want to do have never even tried it on their own. They don't
It's
know
so
how hard
common.
it is. They don't know how easy it might be. They just say, it sounds difficult. I don't think you should do it. Like,
Yeah.
but you've never experienced it. You know what I mean? Go ahead, Cornell.
And you know something else? Sometimes people will put their shortcomings on you. It was like
Oh
I wasn't
yeah,
able to do. It's like I wasn't able to do it, so you can't do it either.
right,
You
Hmm.
see what I'm saying? Like this is hard, but what they
right,
got to realize is we're built different. You
right,
see what I'm saying? Built different. So what you can do isn't going to be what they can do.
right.
Hmm.
You see what I'm saying? They might be good at something else, but this isn't for you. This is yeah. So
Yeah,
Yeah, but I had to
that's
realize that too. So, like, when you're in the middle of it, you're already having so many thoughts and there's so much already going on. And it's really not helpful for people to put their limitations on you. So you have to like, I don't know, I feel like it just took an extreme level of focus to be like, all right, this is a time where I need to have tunnel vision. Like usually we don't want tunnel vision, but I was
Mhm.
like, no, I need to like completely block out all this noise and just focus on what I'm doing, do my best, do my due diligence, do the best that I can, and then see what happens. And like after doing it the first time, so after buying my first out of state property sight unseen, I ain't even been to that state when I bought it. After that, and then seeing that it was working, I was like, all right, I think I can do this again. And then the more I did it, the more comfortable I was. And I was like, I don't even need to go to the state. I don't need to see the property. If I'm comfortable with my numbers and I have a good vibe from the person, because I still go off vibes, then I'm like,
Mhm.
all right, I'm comfortable. So
Have you
I was
seen all of your properties so far?
so far I've seen all of my properties.
Nice. Okay.
But it wasn't the case in 2022. If you asked me that, it would have been like, I ain't seen none of them. But now,
That's
yeah,
nice.
I've seen all of them.
Nice. Okay.
That's dope. So what exactly do you look for when you're purchasing these properties?
Yeah, so I look for cash flow, positive cash flow, and appreciation. So when I'm doing a short-term rental, I use AirDNA, referred to me by Christine, my business partner. I use AirDNA to look at occupancy rates. So I want to see a certain percentage of occupancy or predicted occupancy for that address before I decide if it's going to be good or not. But I also look at what's in the area. So, like in North Carolina, for instance, in Fayetteville, there's a military base. There's also a hospital within 1 mile of the area where I was looking in. So I'm thinking, like, okay, what population of people will be coming to this area to give me constant touch points. So if it's a short-term rental, I want reasons why someone will need to come there. I mean, there's always going to be reasons in any market because people use short-term rentals for various things, but I wanted like some very clear, obvious reasons. People are visiting military families,
Mhm.
nurses are traveling during the pandemic and also outside the pandemic, but they're traveling and need somewhere to stay. So I look for attractions in the area if I'm doing short-term rentals, but then I also look at how popular it might be based on the occupancy rate. If it's a long-term rental, I just look for cash flow. Like the thing that people don't understand is people have to live somewhere. So
Yeah.
no matter what market you're in, even if it's a dangerous neighborhood, someone's going to live there. And the question is, are they going to pay rent to you or to someone else?
Yeah.
And so for me, if the
I mean,
numbers
that's
work,
real.
Yeah.
yes, if the numbers work and maybe I can get Section 8 tenants, I don't know. Like if the numbers work, but people are saying it's dangerous, like I don't really think about any of that. My thing is it going to positively cash flow for me? And if so, then I should look at it. Of course, I don't want to be in a war zone, but I feel like when people say rough or sketchy or dangerous, like they all mean different things. I grew up in a rough, sketchy, dangerous neighborhood. But sometimes when other people say it, I'm like, this is a great neighborhood. What do you mean? Like, it's not that bad. So I feel like it's all about the numbers. I try to take my emotions out of it. I try to remember that I'm not living here. So it doesn't matter if I like the empty lot across the street. It doesn't matter. Someone
Right.
else is going to still want to live here. So that's what I
Wow.
think about too.
Man. All right. So I know that you've already given tons of advice, right? You given don't be afraid to invest out of state. Kind of just understand the difference between renting and how that kind of goes to a black hole, but all the benefits of actually having real estate. But if someone is just starting, right? They're just trying to get into the market. They're trying to purchase their first home, whether it's a real estate investment or their first actual home. What's a piece of advice you would give them for them getting started in investing or getting started on their real estate journey?
So we're talking about someone who doesn't own a home, right?
Someone who does not
Yes.
own a home. Yeah.
Um, I would, okay, so if this person lives in a market where they're paying a very large amount in rent, I would suggest that they focus on getting a primary residence first. So,
Mm-hmm.
like, if your rent is over $2,000 a month, I would focus on just getting a primary residence and not worrying about investing out of state because the likelihood of cash flowing $2,000 a month on your first investment is low.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing is redirecting the money that, like you said, is going into a black hole into something that can benefit you later. I think that's the most important thing in that situation. But if you're someone who like lives at home with your parents and you're not paying rent, or your rent is $500, like that's a different situation. And in that case, I'm like, maybe you don't need to start with a primary residence. Maybe you can start with a multi-unit out of state. If your focus is cash flow and you're not going to have to be paying a lot for your living expenses.
Mm,
But I would say if a person already owns a home, like they already own their primary residence and they're looking to invest, I would start with understanding the purpose. And I think that's a lot of what I see people make mistakes. They enter real estate investing and they don't know why they entered real estate investing. And money is not a purpose. Like I
right.
think they need to understand, what is my end game? Like why am I doing this? What do I hope will happen? I think that is how you create structure and vision and direction. Otherwise, you won't know what is a good investment, what is a bad investment. If you don't know your purpose, you won't be able to eliminate deals. You'll be
Hmm.
confused. You'll be like, wait, is this a deal? Like, I don't know. Like, I think that all that comes from not having a clear purpose and why you're investing in real estate. So that's what I would say.
I actually have another question. Thank you for all this information. Definitely great information. I'm happy that you're here. Um, so I have a cousin and he's a real estate investor. And when it comes to like Roth IRAs and 403Bs, 401Ks, he's saying he doesn't believe in that stuff. Why would he put his money there when he could just buy real estate? Why can't real estate be his retirement plan? What are your thoughts on that, Ashley?
So I think I was similar to your cousin maybe 6 months ago, but I got a new financial advisor and he basically poked holes in my entire mindset. So he did like this full gap analysis, helped me see my net worth and the structure of my portfolio. And he said, you are very lopsided in terms of your investments, and it will create unnecessary risk for you. So he just said, think back to 2008 and what happened. If you were in 2008 with this portfolio, you probably would have been destroyed, because it's not enough diversity. And I was like, ugh. So he was saying like, so he showed me like a pie chart and he was like, look, this orange, which was like 98% of the pie, he was like, that is your real estate holdings. And you have this little 2% that you just play around with in the stock market. And he was like, it's not good for you. Like you have to be diversified so that if the market shifts in any area, you still have other investments that you can lean on. Because, usually it doesn't all happen at once. It's not always like the stock market has gone to shit and real estate and all these other, like it usually doesn't all happen at once. So you want to
Right.
be able to have the security of diversity to lean on. And so, and I this is something I'm just learning. Like I'm still learning and I'm still trying to become comfortable with it, because I am comfortable with real estate. And I, just like you said cousin,
Yes, my
just like your
cousin.
cousin, I had similar thoughts. Like, okay, I rolled over my previous 401k into a self-directed IRA, and I was like, look, I'm gonna use this for real estate too. And so I definitely was like on that same path, and now I'm making changes so I can see the vision. But this is very new for me. But I think your cousin might want to consult with someone to help him work through those things, because it's not wise, is what I would say. It's
Gotcha.
short-sighted.
I
Cool.
appreciate that insight.
Yeah, so diversifying your portfolio. I know when a lot of people say that, they automatically think, "Oh, I need to get into tech and get into, goods and get into the SPY." But the reality is, diversifying your portfolio is a lot more than just stock market. It's a lot
Mhm.
more than just real estate. Like we're talking diversifying your actual investments, right? Buying
Mhm.
some real estate, purchasing some stocks, maybe investing in some companies. That's
Yeah.
actual diversification of your portfolio. So. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
and
that
we've
is
even
something.
talked about franchising. Like he was saying, even just beyond real estate and the stock market, like we need to create a plan for being a part owner in businesses that are successful. And it could be private businesses. Like we need ways to really spread it out so that you have money coming in from a lot of different places in a lot of different ways. And I was just like, ooh, I haven't. I just haven't given that a ton of thought. So it's
Right.
nice to have someone to like, take that journey with you and figure those things out because, I didn't grow up having access to any of this information. My parents are pretty much tapped out on what they can teach me about investing, um, or money, honestly, in general. So it's kind of like I'm just out here trying to figure it out, reading books, listening to people, but not really sure who to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be confusing.
I feel like that's how it should be though. Your parents take you as far as you can go. And I feel like the child should surpass the parent if done correctly. You
Yeah.
see what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So I feel like you all did it the right way. And as Deshaun said earlier, really that's a blessing to have someone in your life that can give you those tools and you don't have to just find these things out on your own because our education system is not giving us that.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They're teaching us algebra and pre-calculus and how far the sun is away from the earth. Like
Yeah.
it's not they're not telling us things that we can apply in real life like our taxes and investing in real estate or investing in stocks. So no, it's really dope. And hearing it done correctly is refreshing. It is. I love it.
Yeah.
Mm.
Cool. Well, I do have one more question. I almost wish I asked this before I asked you to give a piece of advice, but I might have to ask you to give another piece of advice after this question is asked. So we
Fine.
talked about cash flow. We talked about appreciation. We talked about all the benefits of what getting your home, getting a real estate property could be, getting ownership. We talked about all the benefits of ownership. I just wanted to get your opinion. Why do you think people are hesitant? What stops someone from getting into real estate? What is that thing that prevents them from pushing the button, from saying, all right, cool. If you had to just, like, of the people you've spoken to, right? Because you have friends who haven't purchased yet, right? You have people who kind of are on the fence, or they started, they didn't actually complete it. What do you think the thing is that's stopping people from making that next step?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will start by speaking to what made me hesitate. So even though I owned a condo, when it came to investing in real estate, when I first started hearing about it, which was in 2021,
Mm-hmm.
on a podcast, like I heard about this guy named Jamal King. He called himself the 9 to 5 millionaire. And he said that while being a full-time police officer, he became a millionaire in real estate. And I think my first thoughts, and I think it was subconscious, was like, I just don't think I can do that. And I don't think I said to myself like, I think this is too hard for me. I think it was more like the reasons I was giving and like the excuses I was making pretty much led to the same conclusion, which was that yeah, he did it, but I'm not like him. I don't know that I can, or I don't think I can be successful in that way.
That plays on the self-efficacy that
Yeah.
I was speaking on earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So
Hmm.
just wanted to
Yeah,
add.
it's like in order to like overcome those thoughts, I had to first even know that I was having those thoughts. And I didn't know. And it was like on this podcast they started addressing it. They were like, what is it? What is making people not move? And I felt like they were talking to me and I was just like, "Oh my gosh, like this is invasive." But essentially they were like, you don't believe you can, and that's why you won't even try. And I was just like, damn, like you're right. I don't believe I can. And then they encouraged the listeners to be like, look, a way you can overcome that is think about all the times in your life you thought you couldn't and you did. And so I was like, there's a lot of times in my life where I thought I couldn't do something and then I proved myself wrong. So like they were like, make a list of those things and then review it and be like, look, this could be another one of those things. Like you think you can't, it sounds hard, it feels scary, but you can if you just jump into it and you have support and you have the ability to reach out and get information and problem solve. Like just believing your ability to figure it out essentially. And so I hemmed and hawed, honestly, for like, I don't know, maybe 9 months. Like, I first heard about it and I was just like, $1,000 for a course. Ooh, I don't know. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of money. Like, it was a lot of back and forth. And then one day I was just like, fuck it. I'm going to throw this $1,000 in this course. I'm going to give it everything I got. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to apply it like immediately. Like, I need to keep the momentum. So I took the course in like a few weeks. I like guzzled the content And then I was like, all right, immediately I'm going to do every single thing that they said. And so it happened very quickly, but I felt like that was the only way. Like if I waited, and I've done this before, like I've started something and there was too big of a gap between when I got the information and when I took the first step, and then I didn't do anything. So I
Mhm.
feel like I didn't want to do that same thing. So I was like, all right, I have to keep that feeling, because it's that feeling that makes me want to take that next step. Like I'm on like this high because I got this information and I feel strong and powerful. And like, I was like, I have to jump in now, like when I'm having all these positive thoughts. And then it's like, once I jumped in, like I couldn't get out. I was already wrapped up in the mix. And I was like, all right, well, I got to see this thing through. I already made this LLC, I already hired this lawyer, I already paid this money. Like I got to keep going.
Yeah,
Um, so
man, like you said so many powerful things just now. Shout out to Who Moved My Cheese too. That's a really good book if you haven't read it. That's the him and ha that she just
yeah.
mentioned. You haven't read Who Moved My Cheese? It's like, I don't know, it's like 30 pages long. Go check it out. It'll really make you think about getting off the sidelines, right? That paralysis through analysis, that always examining that we have always done it this way, so why would we change now? Like all of those. And it's a children's book, but it is very deep and knowledgeable. If you ever get a chance, yeah, definitely read that. But yeah, I think that you already given the advice, right? That what you did was, one, you purchased something that could benefit you. And a lot of people always hesitate there too, right? They feel like, I don't want to spend money to benefit or to increase my knowledge. They kind of go the cheap route. They say, I can YouTube Academy this out. But I think it's so important for people to realize that you're putting this amount of money that might seem like a lot right now, $1,000. That's like, dang, that's huge. What if I get nothing from this? That's completely up to you. You can pay 1,000 and do nothing with it, but you can pay 1,000 and it can be your way to making millions, right?
Mhm.
Because a lot of times the proof is in the pudding. Like Jamal King
Yeah.
is a very successful real estate investor, and your $1,000 is you paying for all the information that he had, like
Yeah.
just like that, like the years and years and years of his knowledge and experience. And when you think about that $1,000 you invested in yourself all those years ago and the amount of change that it created to now, it's like a
It's
thousand dollars
crazy.
seems like nothing, right?
It's so crazy. And I think it's hard to wrap your head around at the time, like, because
Hmm.
first of all, I wasn't thinking of it as an investment in myself. And
Right.
second, honestly, I didn't know if investing in me was a good investment. Like, that's
Hmm.
really what it came down to. And I feel like that wasn't my biggest investment I made in myself. So it felt a little easier. I would say my biggest investment was going to law school. You know, everyone has something to say. Don't do it. You're going to have all these student loans, blah, 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 blah. But it was like, but what about what can come out of this? And like that was my biggest investment I made in myself, and the returns have been crazy. And so
Yeah.
I was thinking like, okay, I paid this $1,000, I can become a millionaire. Like what? Like the numbers don't even like. And it was like, all I have to do is just make sure that I actually do something with the information. And
Hmm.
so that was what, 2021. At that time, I owned one property. Well, technically two. So like the property I inherited from my mom, and then I owned a condo. That's 2021. In 2022, I acquired three properties. And this is all just stemming from that $1,000 course,
Right.
which is crazy. It's
Yeah.
crazy. And so I don't know. I think we have to overcome that fear of investing in ourselves. And I think we do have to make ourselves better, develop ourselves so that we do believe we are a good investment and that we will
Hmm.
get a return from that investment. Because to me, that's really what it stems down to.
Yeah.
I think where else it could be also, just another way of thinking of it. Sometimes I know, like for me, if I see a course, it's like, man, is this course really going to give me some good information? Because with all these people out here, you see some of these celebrities like being wrapped up in scams like DJ Envy and Caesar, like stuff like that. It's like, how do you know what is factual or what could possibly just be people hustling?
Yes. And I think so. This goes back to trust, right? So I
Yeah.
started listening to these guys in 2020, right? We're all locked up, maybe a little depressed. And I was like, these four men have literally carried me through the pandemic. Okay. I trust them. I've listened to all 200 something of their podcast episodes in this year locked up, and I feel like I can trust them. Okay.
Mhm.
Like I don't know if I was right, but I was like, I feel like they're telling the truth. I feel like I can trust them. And so when they bring to me an opportunity, a course, a something, I'm thinking like, okay, they haven't led me astray yet. I see the receipts, I see the lifestyle they're living, I see how they're doing. They're transparent about the challenges. And so they've gained my trust. And that is why I will take this course over all the ones presented to me, because there were tons of options. There were
Mhm.
lots of courses. Everyone is advertising their real estate course, but I didn't know them. And I
Right.
mean, I also didn't know these people from this podcast, but I was like, I feel like I know I'm in their lives, they're talking
Yeah.
about their challenges. I hear their journey. And I was like, I feel like if I'm going to take this risk, I should at least take it with these people that I've sort of vetted, and let that be the way instead of just buying a random course. So,
Mhm.
I
I think
appreciate
something
that.
else too. It's like when you think about that thousands, you mentioned it earlier in the episode when you were talking about worst case scenario. Worst case scenario is you're at $1,000, but what it could possibly do for you, right? And we do.
yeah.
I mean, we think about that a lot when we're talking about investing. A lot of like traders, they have to do that. What are you willing to lose, right? Only
Yeah.
spend what you're willing to lose. If that $1,000 course didn't work out for you, phooey, you lost $1,000. But
Mm-hmm.
that the opportunity that it can create is, I mean, what the opportunity that it created, I guess I should say, was one that heavily outweighs that $1,000 that you paid for the course. So if you're also hesitant, just think about the fact that the worst thing that can happen is I lose $100, $200, $300. But think about what it could possibly help you gain, right? So combined with trust is just realizing what you're actually putting up, right? That's almost like, okay, cool. With this investment, I'm gonna bet on myself. In a sense, like you said, also trusting that the course is gonna do what it says it does, as long as you execute as well. But you got to think about how much you're willing to lose in case it doesn't pan out too, right? And that's also important, man. But
I, I I appreciate that insight, man, because I did not think about like it being risk and reward, just like with a regular investment.
yeah.
So, nah, that's a dope way to think of it
Mhm.
because it's an investment in yourself. So, yes, the risk would be that $1,000, reward limitless.
Yeah,
I appreciate that perspective.
for
And I
sure.
think for me, like the conversation changes over time, right? So at first, it was the question of what am I willing to lose? But once I started to realize that it's all me. Like it's actually all in my control. It became a lot easier. So like when the opportunity came up to go to like this conference, Phenomenal Life, I'm thinking this is $1,500 just for the ticket. So the conversation was no longer what am I willing to lose, because it was like, well, I'm not going to lose, right? So like you start to build that confidence because like you said, you have self-efficacy. You're like, because I know who I am and what I'm capable of and what I'm going to do, I'm not going to lose. So I am comfortable paying $1,500. And then when you continue to prove to yourself over and over and over again that you will execute and you will not lose, you can make bigger investments and bigger decisions faster. And so, like, another opportunity came up this year, $40,000 investment. Once I understood what the offerings were, I was like, I won't lose because
Mhm.
I know me and I know I will execute and I know I'm going to make way more than $40,000 back after making this investment. And so it's a no brainer at this point. Whereas before, years ago, I would have seen that and been like, $40,000, you crazy. But really, it's me doubting myself, right? It's like if I understood what the offering was and I'm saying, I'm not going to pay that because I don't believe that I'm going to execute and that I'm going to win. I think that's really what it was. So it evolves, and I don't know what it's going to be 5 years from now. You know what I mean? Like, but right now, my feeling and my thought, my risk assessment is if I know what you're offering and I think it's valuable, I'm doing it because I know me and I know I'm going to execute, and that's just what it is. So,
Awesome. Man, this has been a very, very good conversation. Ashlee, you came and you dropped so many gems, man. Look, we appreciate you. Like we started with real estate, then we started talking about some deep stuff, man. Like for real. We got into it, man. So yeah, like just we really and truly appreciate you. Again, you are our first guest on the show, right? #1 guest on the show. So, man, like, thank you for real. Investors Playbook. Really appreciate all of your insight. And yeah, wanted to say thank you, Cornell. You want to end the show?
Ashlee, can you please tell the people where they can find you?
Sure. They can find me on Instagram at gshow inspections, and gshow is spelled JISSHO, and then inspections. They can also find my website, www.gshowinspections.com, and they can reach me via email at info at gshowinspections.com.
Man,
And
so wait, you're
also,
a home inspector too?
I am a home
Oh
inspector.
man, look, we're gonna have to run it back. Episode episode 14. Nah, we're gonna definitely have to have you back as a special guest for sure.
and also, don't you all have something coming up?
Yes.
We do. We have a live tomorrow. Tomorrow is Monday. We will be live with Christine, the business partner I referred to, and Deshaun. We'll be talking about how to get started from a practical standpoint. So, getting your finances in order so that you can invest in real estate. Because even though I said understand your purpose, like money is a thing. And there's a lot of people out here saying you can get started with zero money. Like, I haven't had that experience, so I can't speak to that. But I can speak to like how to get your money in order so that you can invest in real estate responsibly. So
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, at Investors Playbook, we talk about your net profit, right? What's coming in, what's going out, and all of those things matter when you're starting to get into investing into higher investments or heavier investments like real estate. Needing things like a down payment, making sure that your debt is at a certain level. So that's kind of what we're going to talk about tomorrow. We're going to talk about the groundwork that needs to be done, right, in order for you to dive into this wealthy market of real estate investing. So I think it's going to be a really good conversation. I'm excited for it. There's going to be tomorrow, Monday, the 27th. I think at 6:00 p.m.
4 Pacific time, 7
or
Eastern.
4:00 Pacific tomorrow, Monday, November 27th. We're going to be talking about getting started into real estate by getting started with your finances. So definitely going to be a good conversation. Looking forward to it.
For sure.
All right,
y'all.
man. Well, look,
This was a
another
good one.
episode in the books. All
Episode
right.
13.
Episode 13 is completed. Ashlee, again, we appreciate you. And as always, everyone who's listening, thank you for always tuning in. Thank you for being a loyal listener to the Investors Playbook. And we're going to talk to y'all. Balloons? Okay.
What? Wow.
All right.
Is it because you did
Celebrate.
this?
I don't know. Maybe because.
Oh my God.
What is happening? Hey, look, thank y'all for we're gonna catch y'all next time. All right. Appreciate you. Peace out.
Peace.
All right.